A slow breeze nudges the curtains aside. Sunlight spills quietly across the floor, and there is a gentle warmth nestled in the air. So familiar, it almost feels like a hug from an old friend. Maybe you have sat by the window on a morning like this, noticing the way light softens the edges of everything, or felt how the sun's touch makes the world seem a little more alive. There's a subtle hush in the summer's embrace that invites you to relax, to lean back, and just be. Yet beneath this calm moment, there might be a quiet wonder about why some of us carry this preference deep within. Why summer feels safe and welcoming while winter brings a hesitation, a reluctance that is hard to shake. That feeling, that steady pull toward the bright, open days, is not just about the weather or sunlight itself. It is wrapped in layers of our experiences, feelings, and rhythms that together compose something quite personal, yet deeply human. What nobody talks about is the gentle resistance many feel toward colder seasons. Not because winter is harsh, but because it asks us to slow down in a way that isn't always easy. There's a contrast in how summer calls us outward and winter often invites us inward. This difference can stir complex emotions. Perhaps you have noticed how even the idea of peeling off layers of clothing and feeling the sun on your skin brings a subtle joy, a relief from the muffled silence of shorter days. There is a very human side to this preference, an emotional landscape where warmth feels like safety and light feels like clarity. Before we explore the psychological reasons behind these feelings, it's helpful to truly sit with the experience itself, to enter that quiet space where liking summer over winter is simply how things have unfolded for you. This video is for anyone who has ever felt quietly drawn to the summer months, but found themselves second-guessing that feeling or wondering if it reveals something about them. Maybe you have noticed how the long days and open skies bring a lift to your spirit. Or perhaps there is a soft hesitation around the winter months, where days seem compressed and conversations inside become quieter. If that sounds familiar, we're here to explore these impressions together. And while you listen, if you find this gentle unfolding of ideas meaningful, feel free to stay connected as we wander thoughtfully through these reflections, without rushing to conclusions or labels. One common belief many hold is that loving summer simply means you crave warmth because your body dislikes cold. That makes sense, doesn't it? We live in physical bodies, and the dislike for shivering or bundled layers feels straightforward and logical. On the surface, it sounds like a simple preference tied to temperature. But this belief only scratches the surface of something deeper. Emotionally, warmth is often tied to feelings of comfort, ease, and even freedom. It's not just about temperature on the skin. It's about how warmth silently signals safety to our nervous system. The longer daylight hours invite more activity outside, more social connection, and more opportunities to move freely. These sensations weave into a fabric of well-being that calls to many without them even realizing why. Now, you might be thinking, isn't this just about seasons and sunlight more than psychology? That is part of the story. But what nobody talks about is how these seasonal preferences are entwined with the rhythms of our internal world, the cycles of energy, mood, and even memory. Psychologically, people who prefer summer often have responses wired around engagement and expansion. Summer offers a chance to open up, to experience a sense of possibility and growth. Neurologically, exposure to sunlight influences serotonin production, which affects mood regulation and feelings of happiness. This biological underpinning works hand in hand with our lived experiences to shape how seasons touch us emotionally. Imagine this inner experience as a garden. In summer, the garden is in full bloom, bursting with colors and scents that invite exploration. Visitors to the garden feel drawn along the pathways, discovering new flowers, basking in the sun's generous light. The vibrant energy encourages them to linger, to connect, and to celebrate the senses. In winter, that same garden becomes a quieter, bare space. The plants retreat underground, conserving energy, resting. It is still beautiful in its own right, but it asks visitors to slow, to notice subtle textures and shapes, to find warmth in the seeds beneath the surface. People who favor summer may find it easier to connect to that blooming garden than the quiet, hidden one. This metaphor helps us appreciate that the preference is less about right or wrong and more about where one's soul feels invited. This understanding can shift how we interpret personal reactions to seasonal change. One moment of revelation is seeing that preferring summer is not about avoiding discomfort in winter, but about responding to an invitation to express and engage. Another insight is that the comfort felt in summer often mirrors a feeling of being seen and alive, something deeply human and not at all trivial. A third realization is that these preferences are not fixed. Just as gardens shift with the seasons, so do our inner landscapes morph, inviting us to meet ourselves differently over time. In this light, disliking winter is not a failure or a flaw, but a natural expression of a particular rhythm that might change with life circumstances. Consider a small story of someone who grows quietly distant in the cold months. They may find themselves declining invitations, retreating from social events, and feeling a low-key resistance to routine. Those moments might be viewed with harsh judgment externally or internally, but gently reframing this reveals a complexity. What looks like avoidance may really be an act of self-preservation, an understanding that energy in winter must be used differently, reserved for essential connection or tasks. It is not a sign of laziness or fear, but a nuanced response to environmental and internal cues. Recognizing this helps remove shame and open space for compassionate understanding. There's also an important nuance in differentiating comfort from avoidance. Comfort often builds a space where the body and mind can rest and regenerate. Avoidance tends to carry tension, a pull away motivated by fear or discomfort. For people who love summer, the coziness of warm light might be a genuine source of comfort, nourishing their inner world. On the other hand, winter might trigger a subtle tension if it resists their natural rhythms. This distinction is vital because it frees individuals from the burden of self-criticism. It acknowledges that preferences are complex and that seasonal alignment is as much about honoring natural inclinations as it is about adapting. Zooming out, this preference can also be seen as part of a broader pattern in modern life. How fast-paced, socially interconnected environments influence our relationship with nature cycles. The systemic shift toward urban living, artificial lighting, and climate-controlled spaces changes how we experience seasons in the first place. Some sense that summer, with its open-air experiences and social rituals, reconnects them with a needed sense of belonging and vitality. Winter, stripped of light and social fullness, can feel alienating in contrast. Understanding this frames our preferences not as personal shortcomings, but as reflections of larger cultural turns, providing relief from feeling alone in the experience. What reflective questions might you hold after hearing these ideas? Perhaps you might wonder how your own seasonal rhythm shapes your mood and relational patterns. Do you notice your energy levels rising and falling with sunlight's presence or absence? How might embracing your preference for summer invite a softer relationship with winter rather than resistance? Could your internal garden be nurtured, even during the quiet times, in ways that honor your natural pace? These are not questions demanding answers, but invitations to curiosity and gentleness toward oneself. At the heart of this exploration is a reframe. Preferring summer is not a limitation or a sign of weakness, but a unique expression of how your inner world harmonizes with the outer environment. It acknowledges the validity of your feelings without placing you in a box. It recognizes the profound ways environmental factors touch us deeply and respectfully. This perspective invites a compassionate view that shifts from "why do I struggle with winter" to "how can I appreciate my own rhythm within the cycle of seasons?" Returning to the garden metaphor, imagine revisiting those pathways during winter. You still see the outlines of the flowers beneath the snow. You recognize that resting in winter is preparing for the vibrant bloom again. This cyclical process is gentle and assured. It reminds us that preferences for summer are part of a beautiful, ongoing dance with nature rather than a fixed complaint. The garden's rest is as vital as its bloom. With that in mind, consider the intricate nature of the psychology behind people who prefer summer to winter. It is not a simple matter of liking warmth or disliking cold. It is a blend of sensory experiences, emotional safety signals, biological rhythms, social connection, and personal history woven together to create a seasonally rooted sense of self. What nobody talks about is how this preference quietly shapes our daily lives and moods far beyond the obvious. Understanding these layers helps lift the quiet resistance that might be present, and most importantly, it offers a gentle invitation to honor yourself without judgment. As we close, it can be reassuring to know that these feelings are both natural and shared across many. There does not need to be shame in loving the sun more than the snow. This preference can be worn as part of a calm, grounded identity, where your rhythm with the seasons is a valid and beautiful part of who you are. Perhaps the next time the days grow long, you will notice not only the warmth but the comforting continuity it offers your spirit. If this helped you, it might help someone else who quietly holds the same affection for summer's light. For those curious about other aspects of our inner rhythms, exploring the psychology of people who love waking up early can reveal more about how timing and personal tempo shape our experiences quietly yet powerfully. It is another step in understanding the subtle ways we relate to time and nature, an exploration well worth the patient, reflective journey.